this is actually a real case. Imagine this case. A child is taking a test at computer skills at school. And one of the questions is, will you tell your address, password, and etc. personal information to a person from the social media you don't actually know, you've never seen? And there are several options to answer for the child. Some of them are, no, I won't, and I will tell my parents. Yes, why not? My parents don't need to know about this. No, and I will not tell my parents about it. Some of the children will answer, actually, that they will not tell their parents about it. Some of them will answer, actually, that thing.
Yeah.
What should be done by the teacher when he sees an answer like that? What actions should he or she take
to
preserve the child's safety?
So the number 2, yes, why not? My parents don't need to know about it. That's a matter of personal safety education, and the child is not aware of the dangers. Number 3, that's the real scary answer, right? I'm not going to tell my parents. And I think as a parent, that can be really, they're not going to tell me. That's scary. And you want your child to be able to do that. That internet safety on social media becomes a much bigger issue as kids become adolescents. That is the same time when kids are less and less likely to talk to their families. And there's research that shows that kids do better when they have a trusted adult in their lives that is besides their families. This doesn't mean that they don't trust their families and love their families, but it means having a trusted adult outside of that family group in their life. Often this can be somebody at school. This can be a teacher or an administrator at school. Looking into this, oftentimes it can be somebody at school you wouldn't expect, like somebody who works in the cafeteria, or bus driver. And if they can develop a trusted relationship with an adult outside of the family, they do better in academics, they do better socially. And this reminds me of that family. And to step back and say, we accept this in a certain sense and say, that's part of being an adolescent. That kind of goes with it. That's actually a good thing, that they are trying to become more independent. If a school is creating an environment where there are trusting adults and there's somebody there that the child can go to, and they go to and they report that, then they're still being kept safe. So if it's not, I won't tell my parents about it. A better question is there somebody you would tell about this? Who would you go to? Then the next question is, does that person know what to do? You want to make sure that the adult in that child's life knows kind of how to handle this situation. Here in the United States, educators are required to report stuff like this. So they can't just sit on it. The law says that you need to make sure the child stays safe. And connect with the families. So the families will find out eventually. So I think when you ask this, say, is there a trusted adult in your life you can go to with this? They say yes, that's wonderful. The real question is when a kid would say, there's no one I can go to. There's no one I trust. And that is a child who is really in danger. And that's a child that then we can focus our resources on, to reach out to connect with, to find out why there's no one that they trust in their lives, and to help them establish that. Here in the United States, we have lots of programs to connect adolescents with mentors. We also in schools often have programs called advisory programs, where we set up a teacher kind of steps out of their role as a teacher and into a role as a mentor, so that and time is set aside for students to actually kind of intentionally develop those relationships with adults at school, so that they can have someone to go to. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different strategies you can approach it from. So
the teacher has to communicate with that child more than just to say it was not the correct answer. More than that. You should much more than that.
In a question like this, there's not a wrong answer. You're finding out what the kid's feelings are, and I would not recommend going to the child and saying, no, that number 3 is the wrong answer. You need to answer something else. That's a way to get a child to just stop talking and to disconnect.
It's an interesting way of seeing this case, thinking in your cultural way, because yes, there is actually a correct answer here, according to our teacher.
Right.
But it's interesting to know that you see this question, and you know that it's a way of understand how this child is feeling. But no, it's not. It's just a question to examine the child, whether he or she knows what should be done when someone asks for his passwords and addresses. And the teacher should not stop the communication with this child just by saying, this was not the correct answer.
Yeah.
I needed to hear this, and I needed to comment on this, because you said it right. This is a way of understanding how this child is feeling, and that this child may be in danger. And when this child is pointing that he will not tell his parents, the teacher has everything in his hands to protect that child.
And I think maybe a way to just kind of separate this question into two. In our abuse and bullying prevention materials, we would separate this. We'd say, first of all, can you identify that this is an unsafe situation? So it's like, imagine if somebody's asked for this information, would you tell them? Yes or no? I mean, is this a safe situation? Yes or no? So that you know, one, whether the child knows that this is an inappropriate situation or not. And then separately say, what would you do? Who would you tell? How would you keep yourself safe? One of the things that worries me about is the conflating staying safe with families. Is that for children who are uncomfortable going to their families, now they won't necessarily feel like they can keep themselves safe. So if you split those two apart, then you can find out, does the child know that they're in danger? Does the child know who and where to go to? Well, at least you know that you're in an unsafe situation. And now we can talk about, how do we make you feel more comfortable with your families? And that may not be a conversation you have with the child. That may be a conversation you have with the family.